Hi, folks. This is Harold Ree with the Pawprint Animal Rescue Podcast. Couple things. Wanted to let you know that we do have a store. If you want to buy some merchandise, go to thisispawprint.com/shop, and it'll bring you to our T public storefront. That's thisispawprint.com/shop. And also, right before we get to the amazing Lorrie Shaw, wanted to remind you out there that we are looking for some co-hosts. If you're interested in co-hosting, have always wanted to be a podcaster, but never wanted to make the commitment, well, this might be your chance. Email us at thisispawprint@gmail.com and we can start talking. Thanks, and on to the show. This is Pawprint, an animal rescue community, episode 156. I'm Harold Ree.
I'm Lorrie Shaw.
And we just want to welcome Lorrie Shaw to our podcast. She's our first guest co-host. We'll be talking about Nico the Cat. The human-dog bond goes back at least 14,000 years, wouldn't you know? We also talk about grieving. We also talk about fostering. Well, we just want to say, Lorrie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Harold. How are you?
How's your 2018 going so far?
It's gotten kicked off to a pretty nice start. I have to say 2017 wasn't bad at all for me. It was a lot of fun, and 2018 is shaping up to be quite equally wonderful, and I'm really glad because I'm grateful to help so many families and to learn so many more stories about families and their pets. Well, you
can find Lorrie. She's a professional pet sitter. We'll be covering a lot of that. She's also a blogger with lorrieshaw.blogspot.com. Maybe you want to talk about your very most recent article featuring Nico the Cat.
Oh, what a just a beautiful story. Boy, I really wish I could have met Nico. She was very special to her people. And she unfortunately passed away a few weeks ago from complications to chronic kidney disease, or with chronic kidney disease. And her family had gotten in touch with me to just to see what choices they would have, what their vet had talked to them about, what would be best. And it's really hard for people when they hear this information from their vet, like, what do I do with this? So I tried to help them out with that. And as it turns out, Nico was not doing as well as they would have liked. And she passed away a few days later. And her owner, her family, I should say, Megan Story, had contacted me and let me know that was the case. And it was just so wonderful because she seemed to just lead off right on her own about how to cope with the loss of her beloved Nico. And one of the things that I immediately recognized was that she was using a tool that we often talk about in pet loss and grief companioning, which is the value of using rituals to storytell, to express grief, to navigate through that time period. And the way that Megan did it was just extraordinary.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your blog post, and the photo of Nico, it just tugs at my heart. It's just, it's like the fact that this cat is no longer here. I mean, when you see the photo, it's just like, the love and affection that Megan Story must have had for Nico must have been tremendous. So
she was just an adorable little girl. And as most people, when they see a black cat, they just swoon. And she definitely had that swoon factor. And I know she made quite an impression on her family. And it was just beautiful to see how they were able to let go of her and not have any, the guilt that's often associated with that. They were able to kind of just navigate through that so much more fluidly. And I think because they had a handle on what it was that she meant to them.
What did Megan do? How did she sort of grapple with the loss of Nico?
Well, it was really interesting because a couple of days after Nico had passed away, Megan had gotten in touch with me and said, I just wanted to tell you what I did. I just didn't want to, I was really kind of fuzzy those first couple of days, and I didn't really know how to articulate anything. But she said, I just came home from work the next day, and I walked in the house, and Nico wasn't there. and I didn't really know what to do. I didn't want to treat it like any other ordinary day where I just came home from work and I made dinner and just move on with life. And she said, so I just kind of fell apart. I started to cry because I didn't know what to do. And she decided, you know what, I'm gonna do something. So she had kind of remembered some things that she had seen in her best friend, whose family is Vietnamese Buddhist, and she recalls seeing some of the funeral traditions that they had done. And she grabbed some incense, she grabbed some items that Nico really loved, her toys. She grabbed a couple of dishes and put Nico's favorite foods, things that were still left over from when Nico was there. And she just kind of set up a little shrine. She lit some candles and she put them on the table, which is a space that Nico had kind of taken over as her own in her final weeks and months. And it was just there. It was a representation of Nico, and she said, I just felt so much better. It was just what I needed. So it was interesting to see how she was able to take ideas from a tradition that she wasn't really that familiar with and apply it and translate it into something that was really meaningful for her.
Amazing. And just looking at the photos of this little, as you said, almost like a shrine to Nico, it is so meaningful to have that physical reminder. And as you said, it's almost like it hits different senses, right? But it's like to have that physical reminder of someone lost and loved is really powerful.
It is. And really that's what ritual is about. It incorporates all these different things. It incorporates spoken words sometimes. It incorporates objects that were usually meaningful to the person or meaningful to maybe one's faith or whatever. The incense is very sensual, so it triggers those olfactory areas of the food, which is very nurturing and just spells love, which are things that Nico really, really enjoyed. And the spot that she picked was really quite meaningful as well. So it just really brought it all together. And those are the kinds of things that we talk about in using ritual in loss.
Well, that's a great segue to one article that really struck you and me, Lorrie. And that is an article that came out this past week. It has a pretty simple title: "The Emotional Bond Between Humans and Dogs Dates Back 14,000 Years." It was a study done by Leiden University, which I believe is a university in the Netherlands. But it's essentially about a grave site that they found in Germany, or outside of Bonn, Germany, that was dated, they think, 14,000 years ago. It was, they found a man, a woman, and 2 dogs. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about what they actually discovered about the dogs that made this so fascinating?
I just have to start out by saying that it's amazing that 14,000 years ago, we were bonded with dogs. And the fact that they found them in a grave together, I think that I can both agree it was probably likely that they didn't all die together. So that said, what they discovered was that actually it was a PhD candidate from Leiden University who's also a veterinarian, Luke Janssens, and he found that the dog died from canine distemper. And the only thing they had to go off of was the teeth of the dog. And they discovered that this dog was not only young, but he was probably about, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 5 to 7 months old. They think that he had contracted, or she had contracted, the disease at around 3 to 4 months of age. Now, for anybody that knows anything about that disease, it's fatal if it's not treated, and it usually, within 2 or 3 weeks, it proves to be the case. And what they discovered is that this dog lived for anywhere, I think it was up to 7 or 8 weeks post-contraction, which clearly spells the fact that this dog had some excellent care by the family.
Yeah. And you think about 14,000 years ago, it's not like they had Walgreens or CVS around. I mean, they truly had to, either they knew what to do or they really had to make some decisions on how they were going to care for this dog.
Yeah, and think about it, there weren't veterinarians back then. They didn't have
No?
medical
Wait a minute.
care.
What?
And to think about how deadly this disease is and what it does to the body and how quickly it can take a young dog down. I mean, it does hit young dogs especially hard. And the fact that this dog was likely helped along and sustained with just simple good care, good food, warmth, cleanliness, and comfort, I think that really is a testament to what pets need today, what animals need today. What they were able to accomplish with just that, with a serious disease, is amazing.
Well, moving on, maybe more personally, I can talk a little bit about some of our latest fosters that Nancy and I have been caring for. Right now, we have a adorable dog named Sugar. So Sugar is a female, about 5 months old, just a beige fur, and probably looks like your classic Chihuahua. A mixed breed. Nancy calls her a Chiweenie, and so when we first got her, she socially had like no awareness of what to do, and this was about a week ago, where we would give her food, and she would stare at the food. She wouldn't even look at us, but she'd stare at the food and not even know what to do with it. It was like, do I put my mouth on it? Do I put it in my mouth? Do I just sniff it? It was almost like the way a dog might treat a toy, that she didn't really understand that this food that we set before her was really for her. And so she would spend like the next 30 minutes staring at the other dogs, really trying to figure out, what is this stuff?
Oh.
And it really took her, I'd say, about 4 or 5 days for her to realize that this actually might be food for her. Because the first 4 or 5 days, we didn't really notice her eating at all. So
it's not that uncommon, but I mean, I wonder what was her situation like?
I don't know. Yeah, we don't know her past. So, obviously some type of, she was abandoned somehow, and we found her. So it's good to thank you, Lorrie, for even sharing that. It's good to know. But it's the first time, and we've fostered, I think, I don't know, maybe 70, 75 dogs now. Yeah. And that was the first time that we ever found a dog that really had almost like a non-relationship with food, if that makes sense. So
yeah, it does make sense. I mean, think about it. Food is a very personal thing, something that we all do. We all eat. But it kind of makes you wonder what her situation was like. How old is she?
5 months. 5 months.
She's got some time under her belt. But it's kind of interesting. She's had to have eaten, but you have to wonder what it was that she was eating, what she ate it out of.
Right.
And how often did it happen,
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I'm glad she's coming along. It's
In 1 week, she's really opened up, and it just shows you the power of fostering. If she had spent the past 7 days, let's say, at a shelter, right, in a sort of a concrete fenced off room, probably, not really properly ventilated, very little human interaction, she probably would have been, loud, lots of barking from other animals. I mean, she probably would have been at the exact same spot that we found her a week ago. But in 1 week, in a home with a little bit more love, a little bit more comfort, actually, I think it did help in this case that we have 3 other dogs to kind of socialize her. It really did open her up, and maybe in another week or 2, she could even be ready for adoption.
I think that's great. And it's great that she's got the other dogs to kind of show her the ropes.
Exactly.
That's what it's like with canines. They learn from each other, and it's really important. And she's at a really good age to be able to kind of soak all that up. It sounds like she's come a long way just in that short amount of time. Wonderful work.
Yeah, exactly. And then we actually have another cat, Zoey. After we had 9 cats over Christmas, but we took about a 1 to 2 week break from the cats. But now we have 1 cat, Zoey, we took her in mainly because she had a little bit of some digestive issues. So where Nancy works, they have a kitty corner. Like, they actually have a really nice kitty room. But because she was sick, they felt that it was best to just isolate her. And so after a couple of days of just kind of hiding in her crate for pretty much 24 hours, she finally started coming out, eating her food. She's fine, kind of playing around. The next thing will be for her to start playing with the dogs, which is always hysterical because usually I think the dogs are more scared of a kitten than the kitten is scared of the dogs. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Kitten's like, let's go at it. And the dogs are like, no. Even though the dogs are anywhere from, 5, 10, 20, 25 times larger than these tiny little kittens.
Yeah. Oh, that's very sweet. Wow, good job, guys.
Well, how about you? Any animals in the past, let's say, few months that have really kind of stood out to you, Lorrie, in your work with professional pet sitting?
Well, something I've been doing a lot of this year exactly is a lot of work with pets that have owners that are seniors. And as you know, there is a lot of work being done to help pair up pets appropriately with seniors who want to share life with an animal. And I've actually got 3 clients that I'm working with right now. I've got one who lost his wife back in the spring and has a lovely 10-year-old shepherd mix named Jessie. And it is amazing to watch those two together. She's a great dog. They're both seniors, so they kind of share a lot of the same issues. And he really understands her, and I think she understands him. And they have a wonderful life. He takes great care of her. He's able to travel with his family and spend time with them while Jessie stays home and gets a break. And gets to hang around somebody a little bit younger for a little while, I think. I think that's kind of interesting aspect of it, too. And she's just a joy. She's got a great environment. I've got another family that I was connected with recently through one of the vets that I know. And Nancy owns a 2-year-old beautiful black cat. I don't know if you've seen pictures of him in my social media feed, but
no.
Yeah, Spooker is a long-haired black cat. He's 2 years old. He's just an exquisite little creature. He was adopted from the Humane Society locally, here on Bailey Humane Society. And Nancy is 94 years old. And her family helped her adopt this cat, helped her select him. And he is just the light of her life. I go over twice a month and check in on both of them. Check his food inventory. I give him a good brushing, check him over. It really helps her vet stay on top of things. It's a great way for me to see how things are going so that I can communicate to the vet what's going on. If there are any issues, I can be present to help the client dialogue with their vet, and I can speak on behalf for Spooker too, which is really important. But it's a great arrangement. He's got a quiet environment. She has company, he has company, and he totally gets her. He totally gets her. He has a great routine with her. It's really funny when I come, he knows, and he gets super excited. It's like, just something that's in our routine now. So I'm really glad to see that shelters and rescue organizations are so willing to work with seniors, because that is just a largely untapped resource for adoptions. Sure. And they're equally able to handle the task.
And ironically, I've had this conversation with folks who run senior animal organizations. And I think a lot of folks either rightly or wrongly assume that senior humans might have more compassion and empathy for senior dogs and cats. Well, in fact, that's not actually always the case. I mean, senior people like puppies and kittens, just like the rest of us like puppies and kittens. So I think for any animal rescue organization, the lesson is always be open. Don't judge a senior by their age. Just because they're older doesn't mean that they're not just as excited at seeing a puppy or kitten the same way a 5-year-old might during the holidays.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think, yeah, I think if you keep your mind open to that, that allows for a much more positive experience.
most definitely. And if they have the family support, and if they have a backup plan for things, if things happen, it's a totally doable situation. When I see my clients with their pets, in fact, I've got another client who I'll be actually seeing a little bit later today. Family had taken the cat into the vet, had an issue with his eye, so he's going to need medication for the next few days. And it can be a little difficult for mom to give her cat medication. Physically, it's a little difficult, and it's really great that I'm able to kind of keep track of what's going on. I can help the family stay on task. I can help the pet owner feel empowered. I can help the vet make sure that the treatment plan stays in place. And there's no reason why she shouldn't have a cat. I mean, these things happen where they have illnesses and stuff. And I really do think that that is where pet sitters and other professionals and even non-professionals can really be a boon for these families. So it takes a village.
Now, you mentioned that you mentioned very briefly before I interrupted you, but tell us a little bit more about Grieve Well. It's this new organization, or not new organization, but it's an organization that you're becoming a little bit more involved in.
It's really exciting. They were started out in 2010. They were known as the Kite Network here in Ann Arbor. And it was started by a family who had suffered a loss, and they wanted to do something with that loss. And what they discovered is that really community can be a huge support for an individual in grief. It takes a village, just like I said with the seniors. So they do a lot of different types of counseling. It's really based on the companioning model, which does not treat grief as a pathology. It's not an illness. It is a very natural part of life. It is something that we all go through, and we really need to treat each other with the respect and the care and the thoughtfulness, and we need to give each other the space that we need and to have our stories heard. And I'm really excited to the prospect of doing some stuff with the organization because they do such great work. They do stuff with children. They do stuff with folks with pet loss, different types of relationships that are fractured. And then there's a loss. It can be really complicated. So I'm really excited to know that the community has that resource. And Grieve Well they were just renamed back in 2017. So it's really exciting to see how much good can be done by just a few people if you're willing to put in the work.
And so, are you taking actual classes with them? Are you already sort of engaged with them in some way?
No, actually, I just submitted the application. So what I'll be doing from here is I'll be doing a training with them after an interview to see if we're fit, first of all. But they do have their own training program, which, as I understand it, dovetails kind of what I did back in September with the PLPA and the Pet Loss Center. So I'm pretty excited to be able to expand on my skills. It's a philosophy I believe in, and a lot of people really respond to it.
Mm. I've noticed in the past couple of years that you and I have known each other that you love to learn. You love to go to training and continuing education. Has that been something that's been part of you your whole life, or when did it start?
I'm kind of a lifelong learner. I have to say that I have always been very self-directed in my education. So I think because of that, I've had a sense of freedom to gravitate towards the things that I value and the things that I think can be of use not only to me, but to those around me. I try to keep that in mind as I'm thinking about what it is that I want to learn next. So any opportunity that I can get, I'm willing to pay for it. I am happy to take it if it's free, but it just has to be useful.
I'm sure a teacher would love to have you as a student. You must be very conscientious.
Well, I was just telling a friend the other day, you don't want to take a class with me because I ask a lot of questions. I'm always talking. But I think, especially in the kind of education that I do, I think sometimes people are afraid to ask questions about stuff. But because these are classes and certifications that we want to have so that we can further our ability to help people, facilitating conversation about difficult issues or things that maybe that we haven't thought about, how it could relate. I'm always thinking of devil's advocate in this and trying to figure out how what I'm learning can actually apply to different things. So it's kind of interesting when I come out. People, they know who I am because I'm the most talkative of the group.
Well, we covered a lot today. Lorrie, just want to say thanks for being our co-host today.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. So let's see. Let's go over a couple things. Grieve Well, if you're interested more in Grieve Well in the Ann Arbor, Michigan area, they can be found at grievewell.com. You can find our other articles that we mentioned on our show notes. This is pawprint.com/156. Lorrie, maybe give us a couple of ways to find professional pet sitting as well as your blog.
Well, it can always be found on my blog at lorrieshaw.blogspot.com. And I try to write at least a couple of times a month on there. I did skip the holiday season. And just posted a new piece the other day. So just check back there for new updates and stuff. And I can also be found on my Facebook page, which has a lot of resources and information. That's facebook.com/PPSLorrie. And you can also follow my adventures in pet sitting and pet loss and grief companioning on Twitter at PSA2.
All right. And Lorrie is spelled Lorrie.
Yeah.
Okay. You can also find me and Nancy on social media, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Look for This Is Pawprint, all one word. And finally, all the music you hear on Pawprint is composed, performed, and produced by the wonderful Luke Gartner Brereton. Find him at info.vanillagroovemedia.com. Thanks, Lorrie, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Harold. Looking forward to it.
You spread a positive message of love and peace by saving an animal. Have a great day, everyone, and see you next time on Pawprint.
Pawprint is a production of EVER Education.
You can't handle the truth.